Hello, welcome to another episode of Rich with Experiences. My name is Michelle. I am your host and welcome. I am so excited that you are here with me for another episode, and we have a lot planned. So let's get into it. Before we get into this episode, like always, let's spend a little time with ourselves. Let's get ourselves ready. Let's do some breathing. If you haven't done this before, it's okay. I'm going to walk you through it. I want you to take a nice big inhale through your nose. You're going to raise your diaphragm. If you don't know, that's that little part that's lower underneath your belly button. I want to see that part rise up. That's your diaphragm. So I want you to breathe in through your nose, raise your diaphragm, but here's where it gets fun. I want you to do an audible, deep sound. Like I'm going to show you. I want you to be like this. Go breathe in. Oh. I want you to feel it right here in your heart chakra, okay? You're going to hear me tell you this every week at the beginning of our episodes. So let's do it again. Let's breathe in through our nose and we're going to exhale. We're going to do that nice big audible. Oh, okay. So it's your turn. Ready? Go in. Go. Now I want you to sink in. If you are at home in your couch, do it again. I want you to sink in where you are. Take another deep inhale. If you're driving, I don't want you to close your eyes, but I do want you to just kind of be present in the moment and let that just vibrate in your heart chakra and exhale. And the reason that we are doing this is because it allows you to get yourself out of your mind and in the body so you can be present. So this is something that you can use as a tool. Put it away. So when you are in one of those situations where you are feeling that you are all right here and you need to kind of be like, "Oh, hold on. Let me slow down." This is a great breathing technique that you can do anywhere. Okay. So keep it in your toolbox. What are we going to talk about today? Well, welcome. We are going to talk about who are we being? Who are we being? All right. So, welcome again. My name is Michelle. I am the host of Rich with Experiences, and I am the owner and founder of Life After Loss, where we have an amazing program called Healing to Create Abundance. And I'm the creator of that program. So, Rich with Experiences was an idea that I created when I was going through my healing journey. And I started laughing at myself because as I was reflecting on all the experiences that I've been through, I was like, you know what? I might not be rich with money, but I am rich with experiences. And that's important because your experiences create your beliefs. And your beliefs is how you operate in this world, right? You do things based off of your beliefs. Your beliefs is kind of intertwined with your moral compass, and what you choose to do, the people you choose to hang out with, the things you choose in life, the things that you associate with yourself. All of those things stems from your beliefs, right? And your beliefs come from your experiences. And that's why it's so important that when we think about trauma, when we think about the things that we've experienced in our lives, we need to understand that those go hand in hand with our beliefs. So this week, we have so much to talk about, and I'm so excited. But the question I want you to remember at the top of this episode is, who are you being? Who are you being? Okay. Not who are you, not what's your title, not mom, not wife, not business owner, you know, not crafting extraordinaire. I mean, we have so many titles, but the question is, who are you being? Okay. And I want you to think about it in a way of, if somebody asked you right now, if somebody walked up to you and said, do you feel like you're walking in your purpose? Do you feel like, you know, when you step out your door, are you being your authentic self? Are you showing up the person that you want to be? And if you're thinking about that and the answer is no, good, good. We're going to talk about that because through my healing journey, that was the one thing that really kept me really connected in those moments when life was lifing. In those moments when it was really difficult and those traumatic experiences, that impact was so difficult, I had to really cling into the idea that I knew that there was more. I knew that I was not walking in my purpose, and I knew that I wanted to figure it out. I didn't know how, but I knew just enough to allow that to be the anchor when, man, everything was just piling up and piling up and piling up, okay? So I want you to think about that. I want you to ask yourself that question. Am I showing up at work being my authentic person? Am I reserved around my friends? Am I even showing up around my family members, the person that I truly honestly feel on the inside that I am? And I'm just not showing people because I'm just not there yet, or I don't know. Okay. And I want you to think about this. Are you keeping yourself from being your authentic self, from walking in your purpose, from doing what you want to do, from doing what you feel out of fear? And is that fear around because of this trauma that's unhealed? And that trauma stays unhealed because that experience just created too much impact. And that impact is keeping me in this place where that healing word, that healing idea, I just don't know if that healing word applies to this experience. Hmm. Well, I I had to ask myself those questions. And I had this idea that healing was hard. I was like, I've experienced a lot in my life, and it's hard. It's hard. But is it hard enough for me not to try, not to get back in the game? I want to tell you about a story and about myself. And I want to warn you guys. Here at Rich with Experiences, RWE, we're going to talk about things that are triggering. We're going to talk and discuss and share and encourage, empower, and uplift one another. But we also know as adults, there are some chapters in our lives that were really, really traumatic. And this story, I just want to let you guys know this story is traumatic. The story has sexual abuse in it, but I want to share it because honestly, so many chapters, so many years of my life, I was a victim of sexual abuse. But that's my story. I can't change it. And I understand that there are so many women like me who that is some of our experiences. And because of that, I'm going to share it with you because it's what we do here. We share the tough stories that molded us, that shaped us, that allowed us to be, remember that pressure, that diamond? And this is one of those stories. So before I was 21, it was about a couple of weeks before my 21st birthday. I was in the military. And we were in our doc or in the birthing, which is kind of like if you went to college, it would be like a dorm, the equivalent to a dorm. And we were drinking. I was underage. I shouldn't have been drinking. Okay. Um, and then we got this idea. I was like, hey, you know what? Let's go get some more alcohol. So we decided to go out and get some more alcohol. There was somebody that was a friend of a friend that was in the room with us. And he said, you know what, I'll go with you. And I said, okay, sure. I wasn't thinking anything of it. I wasn't fearful. I wasn't alarmed. There was no pink flags besides the fact that we were just all having fun. So I said, sure. We never made it to the gas station. When we got in my car, he decided to attack me. I yelled, I screamed, and I fought. I fought really hard. And as we were fighting and as he was ripping my clothes, the military police came to the window. And I thought, yes, I'm gonna be saved in this moment. They're gonna see what's going on. I'm gonna be saved. But that wasn't my experience. The MPs came to the door. They looked through the window and they took us out of the vehicle. My clothes were ripped. I was exposed. I was trying to tell them what was happening, but they were not listening because one, remember I told you I was an underage drinker. I was drunk and I was underage. So right there, they weren't listening to anything that I had to say. And they took me back to my carrier, half exposed. And they sat me in front of what we call the military police. It's like a little area. And I was waiting for someone to come and take me back to the area where I had to go because I was in trouble. I couldn't go on my own. I had to wait for an escort. So I sat there exposed. They didn't give me a blanket. They didn't give me any clothing. And I sat there, bloodied, bruised, hurt, emotionally, physically. See, that was the first time that I ever wanted to hide. I didn't want to be seen. And that experience impacted my whole entire life. So I was thinking one time about our lives in general and how um, we really don't have a clean slate. Oftentimes, like when you're born, you have a clean slate. No, that's not true. You know, oftentimes we're affected by generational trauma and things that have happened in our life that we don't even remember, we don't even know existed, but it's generational trauma that exists, that is in our DNA. So we already have some traumatic experiences, and then when we're born and when life happens and life is life, and I said, man, this is exactly like Swiss cheese. When Swiss cheese is created, it's a solid block. I looked this up. It's a solid block, but the holes are created during the cheese process, during the curing process. And I said, well, isn't that kind of like life? When life is lifing, when you experience something that's traumatic, it's like now you have a hole missing in yourself, right? So when this experience happened, I lost something. And what I lost was my security and just being in my body, just being around people, being seen, because I didn't want to be seen, because I was just seen in the most embarrassing way. See, our experiences are hard. That is so hard. The experience that we go through is hard. Your experiences are hard, but there is something that is harder. After that happened, I went to my birthing. I went to bed. And guess what? The sun rose the next day, and I had to go to work. I was bruised. I was hurt emotionally, physically. And not only that, people knew what happened and they were talking. This world continued. Just like when you experience something in your life, if you were a victim of SA, sexual assault, you realize the next morning, life continued, but you are not the same. You're not experiencing things in the same way. And existing after a loss like that, that was the harder thing. That was the harder thing. And such a huge portion of my life was functioning in this place of harder, existing, grief, grieving. That is why when I said, oh my goodness, when I looked at trauma from the same perspective as, oh, wait, when this traumatic experience happened, I was impacted. Not only was there an impact in my life, I lost something. The definition of grief is the physical, emotional response to how you react to losing something you love. Guess what? I love that part of me that was lost in that experience. But since no one ever told me in a way that, you know what, trauma is an experience, you lost something in that experience, and you're going to grieve what you lost during that experience. You're going to have anger, you're going to bargain, you're going to be depressed. And that's okay. And that's what you're feeling. And that is okay. It's when we don't connect those dots that in the harder, it just is very hard. And we stay in that space for years. And then we have unhealed trauma. Unhealed trauma. And that unhealed trauma creates bricks. How is that? How does that create bricks? Well, because if you are experiencing a loss after the impact of something so detrimental in your life, guess what you're going to do naturally? Naturally, you're going to try to protect yourself from having that experience again. Okay. So if you were a victim of sexual assault, you might be putting bricks up like, okay, you know what? I might not be good in a relationship. I was sexually assaulted. I don't know how to give myself to my partner in that way. So I don't know if I can stand up to be a wife. Okay. For me, I was like, you know what? I was just exposed in the worst way. I don't want to be exposed again. So I'm going to put a brick up and I'm not going to go on stage. I'm not doing speaking engagements for years. I'm going to find a different path. And we build these bricks out of we brick, and we have it up so high. And sometimes we're looking over like, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's over there? What's over there? Without realizing we don't have to look over the wall. We don't have to look over the wall. We can start healing these bricks and removing them. So the wall's no longer existent. So we can then show up as our authentic self because we're healing, we're breaking down the walls because there's nothing that I need to protect myself from you or that situation or that pain. See, that's what is is so special about the healing journey. It's hard, it's harder, but our unhealed trauma is not, it doesn't just affect us emotionally. I did some research. I'm trying to tell you because I was really, remember I told you this healing journey wasn't because I was inspired by the community. I'm glad I've created and we have each other and we're sharpening each other and we're sharing our experiences. But I had to go through it in isolation before I realized it ain't fun being isolated and healing at the same time. It's not as enjoyable. And then I decided, you know what? How do I connect back? How do I figure this out? So then I decided to ask myself the question I wanted to ask you, and I asked you the same question. Who are you being? We understand that the foods we eat gives us energy. It can either make us, have a lot of energy. It can make us really low. We know this. Food is, our source, but who are you being? And if given the opportunity, would you do the hardest thing? The reality is you're already choosing a hard. Living a life with unhealed trauma is hard. Here's the statistics on this. Unhealed trauma. Those who suffer from unhealed trauma are more prone to have heart attacks, strokes. They suffer from more obesity, diabetes, cancer. Heart attack, stroke, obesity, diabetes, and cancer are all linked to unhealed trauma. And the number one demographic most affected are people who look like me, African American women. And I don't think that that is by mistake. And that is why it is so important for us, for myself, for you, for our community to really ask ourselves, what hard do we want? Because we're going to have a hard. We can have a hard life with health issues, or we can do what I consider to be the hardest. And I think everyone, myself included, is worth the hardest. And the hardest is when you allow yourself to just hit rock bottom. I remember when I hit rock bottom. I was tired. I was in a lot of pain. I was angry. I was tired of putting myself last. I was tired of not being able to understand. And then that tiredness allowed me what I needed to take one step, then another step, and then another step. But in order for you to really do the healing of trauma, and this is why I say it's the hardest, because you're going to have to allow yourself to be vulnerable. You're going to have to allow yourself to go to the past, reflect, and take what you need so that you can heal and be who you choose to be in the future. But that takes a lot of work. And I know that you can do it. And I know you have the courage to do it because we're going to have to pick a hard. We're going to have to pick a hard. We're definitely going to have to pick a hardest. It's all about which one you want. But when you're doing the hardest, here's what you're going to gain. You're going to gain validating yourself, validating your feelings, honoring. One of the funnest things, setting boundaries. Boundaries no longer become a 4-letter word. That is not something we want to do. You're going to start creating boundaries because you know your boundaries honor you. And it's a lot easier to honor you when you are showing up the way you want to. When you are showing up with the intentions of honoring yourself. So here's what I have for you. We always I always wanna leave you with a tool. I never wanna leave you without something that you can just apply and work on throughout the week, okay? So now that we're in this hardest, going back, reflecting, what do they always say? Hindsight 2020. If I would have known then what I know now, well, here is your opportunity to really do that. So I love to journal. Journaling gives you the opportunity to go deep without eyes. But here's what I want you to do, do it from a place of curiosity. Be curious of why you are feeling what you are feeling. If you become triggered when you are going through and asking yourselves these questions, if you can, if the situation is not as triggering to where it's not you just need to allow it to settle for a little bit. I'm gonna tell you something to do if that comes up. But for those who you might feel a little triggery, like, oh my goodness, this really does irritate me. This really does bother me. I'm starting to cry in this moment. Why am I getting angry in this moment? I want you to use that as a be curious. Allow yourself to be a little detective, follow the clues. What is it in this moment that is upsetting me? What am I feeling? What am I seeing? What am I smelling? What memory is this memory reminding me of? Right? Be curious because the more curious you are, the deeper you'll be able to go in the journal, in your writing, in your discovery. You'll be able to go a lot deeper if you're doing it from a place of curiosity. Okay. Um, so here is some journal prompts. What have I overcame in my life? What have I overcome? And the next one, what were the lessons that I learned from this experience? I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. I really don't. How often do we look back and say, you know what? What did I learn? Give myself a pat on the back. Give myself a pat on the back. Next week, we're going to go a little bit further. So this week, it's what have I overcame? What are the things in my life? What are instances, experiences? What were the lessons that I learned? And not lessons like, oh, I learned to no, what lessons that you feel that has made you now this powerful woman that you are now? Your resiliency. What is it that you have learned from this experience? Not the, well, I learned to be nice to people. No, we're not being nice to people. What did you learn? Me, I learned that in the face of people looking at me, I will still hold my chin up. That this experience did not change who I am as a person. I still love singing. I still love performing. I still love talking to people. That is what I learned about myself. And I want you to sit back and ask yourself, what have I learned about myself? As I tell you, adjust that crown. That is what this community is about. Sharpening each other. There has been way too many days of us doing it alone in isolation. If you're like me crying in the closet, that's my place, right? No more. We're going to uplift each other, encourage each other. Next week, we're going to talk about forgiveness. Now, forgiveness may be different for different people. It may look different for many people, but we're going to talk about it. Is forgiveness for you, forgiveness for others? There's so many questions around that word. Well, I am so excited that you were here with me today. I'm so glad that we got to talk about the hard, the harder, and the hardest things on healing and what that journey looks like for you. I want you to remember my favorite tagline. You're going to have to love yourself through the discovery and the healing. Because sometimes our experiences, they're tough, especially when you're dealing with sexual assault, because you didn't ask for it, but you are in fact affected and impacted, just like me. But how do we heal? How do we forgive? And how do we allow ourselves to realize that there is life after loss and you are worth it? And I'm so glad that you are here with me today. If you're interested in learning more about healing to create abundance, our 90-day program at Life After Loss Academy, LALA, you can reach out to me at my website, www.michellehoughton.com. And on the website, you'll be able to link up and schedule your appointment to work with me free. So I will give you more information about the program and we can work one-on-one and I can see how I can best help you through your healing process. I'm so, so very proud of the community that we are building together. Until next week, go out there and be fabulous. Bye.